Hello everyone, welcome to the 30 days of Leetcode JavaScript challenge. So this is day 3 and there is a problem counter second, and that is also based on the topic closure that we discussed earlier. And yesterday we solved the problem counter that was also based on the concept closure. So what was closure? Closure was basically functions that are so many functions that are stored some inside a function, and it maintains like a memory type of thing such that it can access the variables that were defined in its lexical environment. So let me again explain you what is a closure. So at this, if this is the function make function, okay, a variable has been defined inside the make function and a function is also defined inside that function, and we are returning that display name function. So now this is a closure, like when my function is invoked, like make function is invoked, and this function has been returned here. So it basically retains the value of this name, that my name Mozilla has been returned, because if this function has returned something, then it will be deleted from the memory. But this display name function has some type of its surrounding state or surrounding environment that is retained inside it, and it can access the values that were defined inside that. So a closure is the combination of a function and the lexical environment within which that function was declared. This environment consists of any local variables that were in the scope at the time of closure was created. Okay, any local variable that at that time that were present when the closure was created, at that time that this name was present here. Okay, that's what closure means. So in this case, my function is a reference to the instance of the function display name. So this my function is a reference to this, because this was returned here. So this is very similar to like const my function is equal to display name. So this my function will be same function, this function, and this value will be stored inside it, and maintains a reference to its lexical environment within which the variable name exists. Inside the lexical environment of this display name, this name variable exists, and so that when we call this function my function, then it will simply console.log the name that is Mozilla here. So that's what closure is. So what is our problem? Our problem is a write a function create counter. So yesterday also we created a function inside the create counter. It should accept the initial integer in it, and it's to return an object within three functions defined, that is increment function and decrement function and reset function. What increment function does, like if we are passing an init value inside it, like here 5 has been passed, then this will return an object that will contain three functions, that is increment function, decrement function, and reset function. Basically, this counter is an object that has three functions inside that, these three functions. And whenever we call this increment function, then we get the value increased by the current value that was stored here. It was 5, and when we call this, then 6 will be returned. That is one more than the stored value, and the stored value gets updated by 1. And whenever we count it or reset, then stored value again is reset by the init value. That init value was 5, so again the stored value becomes 5. And whenever we again call the counter dot increment, then now the stored value was 5, then we are just returning one smaller number than that. So that's what we have to do. And before doing this, I will explain you like what is an object in JavaScript. There is some concept like objects in JavaScript. So MD and WebDocs is the best way to learn JavaScript concepts. So inside JavaScript there is a concept object. So for defining object, we only need two curly braces, one open curly braces and curly braces. Inside that we can write anything like this foo and this colon and this value. Any this value can be anything, any function, any number, integer, string, anything that you want to give, and then a comma. So that before writing the next property, you have to write the comma, so that we can JavaScript can check how many properties are there. So what is here, and this because this function is directly defined here, so the property will be same. Property is enumerable. uh, so let me show it inside the editor. Let's say we are defining a object. We can say any property we attach, like color, and a property will have a value color red and height of that object. You can give any property and any value. So this is basically an object. If I console.log, this is an object and type of obj. So here we are printing the our object, that is color red and height 10, and this is an object. I am printing the type of the object, that is object. So like for properties, we can use uh, directly the name of the property, like color. Here I have used, but if the property has some spaces or some other keywords inside that, like if you want to add something, uh, you can add anything, like full name, that contains some spaces. So you cannot write like this. You cannot write like this, full name. Again, the values must be having some type of JavaScript data type, but for the keys, that is property names, it should be either if the name is like color does not contain any space, then we can write like this. And if it has some spaces like full name, then we have to write inside the string. So only these two ways are for writing this object. So if I run this, so this is the color, height, and full name. That is Abhinandan Mishra. That is has been stored inside it, and this is the object. One more thing, like if we have some variable, let me like constitute equal to 30, and we have already a variable. So either we can write like this, the property name and the value that it has been stored inside it, and this will work. So width has been stored inside it. Also, if we are using the same value, like both the values are same here, so we can just write this thing. We can just write width, and we can separate it by comma. So mm, now this is same as that we have written earlier to this. It will make the key as width, and it will take the property from the variable that has been defined earlier. So this is the same thing. If I run this, mm, oh, 1 minute. So here width is 30, and that error all because of that comment that I have included in the inside this. Okay, so that's what JavaScript. We can also create some functions like const add is a function. Okay, a comma b, and it returns a plus b. So this is a one line function where we are returning the a plus b, and a and b are given as parameter. So we can just write add here. So now this add function is also inside this. If I run this, then it's showing that this is a function that is named add. Okay, so that's all about this what are JavaScript function. So basically what we have to do inside this counter function, we have to create some functions, like we have to store the current value also, and we have to store the initial value that was given, because when we have to call the reset, then we will need this initial value that was given to it. So we don't have to change the initial value, as we are in the previous video, in the counter video. What we did, we changed the n directly. We did the n plus plus, and that was returning n at that time. And after the return happened, then the value of n gets increases. So that was the input we changed. But for here we have to create one more variable. So let's create a variable current. Initially we give the current value, and let's create functions inside this. Three functions I have to create: increment, and this will simply we are returning here the increased value. Let if the stored value is 5, then we are returning the increased value. So what we can do, we can do plus current. So before returning this statement will run, then this statement will run. This is a single statement, but before returning firstly this statement will run, then this statement will run. And same we can do for decrement also. So in decrement we can just return the minus minus, and in reset we can just set the initial value that was given. So init was already there, so in reset we have to set the initial value, and we have to return that initial value. So we can just return init here. Now these three functions are defined, so we have to return an object that contains uh, these three properties. And property will have, like increment property will have this function as value, and this. So as we discussed here, like we can give the add here. If I write inside this, if I write add here, so this will take the add as property, and this function will be returned as the value here. So we can simply return an object. We can create an object const result, and we will give the values here: increment, decrement, and reset. Let's check it. So I think it's working. So this function is working here. We can directly return it also, like if we don't create this value and just return here. This will also work. So that's all about this video. Like we have used the closure concept of JavaScript, where we have defined our variable from this, and we created an object. So increment is the key or property, and this function will be the value for that. So that's all about it.